So, guys, I am back from a short break, Nawaz break, and let's continue from where we left.
Your vocabulary and know your vocabulary, you know where you should be going. Okay? And that's why vocabulary is so important. Okay? That's why vocabulary is so important. So what I wanted to do here was I wanted to, hold on, somebody has a question for me. I got the vocabulary from the audio, but when it comes to answer, I was missing somewhere, getting confused. All right, somebody asked me a question that they get the vocabulary, but they get confused. That's a matter of your practicing. That's a matter of you're just learning vocabulary better and recognizing when they're saying a particular vocabulary word. That comes from practice, right? It's not something that you're going to get one time, but sometimes you might play the audio for one map 10 times until you're able to recognize the vocabulary words and where they say the vocabulary words are. Okay, that's what you have to do. But there's no secret formula. All right, that's what somebody just asked me a question about. All right, so I hope it's more clear. I hope it's more clear on how to do how to do the map. Okay, now for the next one, we have the option. We have the option. I might go ahead and do another map. Does anybody want me to do another map, or do you want me to go back into the multiple choice questions? Because there's only so much time. But does everybody? Please, another map. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Stop. All right. Okay. All right. Stop. All right. We'll do a map. Okay. All right. So we'll do another map, and if I have time after the map, no, there's no break. Or somebody asked me if there was a break. No, I don't know if I have time because at a certain time I have to stop because I also have to teach a live TOEFL class today. I have a TOEFL course and I have an Ielts course, and I have to teach the listening section for my TOEFL students. So I can't. The clock doesn't go forever. Okay. All right. Tarek, I don't know what MCQ means. Okay. So everybody, hold on one moment. The next one. The next one I'm going to be looking at is from book 13.
Sorry, what I'm saying is let's revisit this map because I think it was pretty confusing, and one of the answer was by luck right. So I think this is a good practice map. I'm playing it again.
Test 1. All right, book 13, test 1. I'm sorry, who has 19? What is 19? In Hill Road, here's the junction. F is facing the junction. F is the only one that's at the junction, right here. Junction is right. That might be something you're not doing right. You have to recognize where they're talking about. That you can, please.
15 to 20. The sheep market is one of the main centres for art and history in the whole of the country. If you look at our map, you'll see some of the main attractions there. Most visitors start from Crawley Road at the bottom of the map. The Reynolds House is one of the oldest houses in the city and is open to the public. It's on the north side of Crawley Road, next to the footpath that leads to the public gardens. The area is particularly interesting for its unusual sculptures. The thumb is just what its name suggests, but it's about 10 metres high. You'll see it on Hill Road, across the road from the bank. The museum's got a particularly fine collection of New Zealand landscapes. It's on the east side of the sheep market, on City Road. It's on the other side of the road from the public gardens, immediately facing the junction with Hill Road. The Contemporary Art Gallery is on a little road that leads off Station Square, not far from the public gardens. The road ends at the gallery. It doesn't go anywhere else. That's open every day except Mondays. The Warner Gallery specialises in 19th century art. It's on City Road, near the junction with Crawley Road, on the same side of the road as the public gardens. It's open on weekdays from 9 to 5 and entry is free. Finally, if you're interested in purchasing high-quality artwork, the place to go is Nucleus. You need to go from Crawley Road up through Station Square and east along Hill Road until you get to a small winding road turning off. Go up there and it's on your right. If you get to City Road, you've gone too far. That is the end of section 2.
Junction is right. You know what a winding road.
So the interesting part was in this map is the last two answers, right? So they are taking names of lot of roads within few seconds, and that's where we just have to track it. Yeah, moving on.
Road is. We have the option. I'm gonna get, well, we have the option. I might go ahead and do another map time after the map. No, there's no. The clock doesn't. So if you have book, there probably will not be another live session this week. I normally only. All right, so book 13 and section 2, and everybody, hold on one moment. Give me 1 minute, please. Okay. All right. Can you? No, I cannot upload copies of the Ielts Cambridge exams on the site. Does everybody understand that that's illegal? All right. I can't do that. No, I cannot send you the map, everybody. I can't send you the map. I know in your countries, sometimes this stuff might not be illegal. I can't give you the Cambridge stuff. I can't do that. Okay. Everybody, please stop sending me private messages asking me to send that. I cannot do that. Okay. There are reasons why. I would love to be able to give you stuff, but I cannot box around, right? Draw box around things. But that's why the way you need to do on the real exam. So you can't bring in a highlighter. You got to use a pencil. Okay, because you haven't been practicing the way you need to do on the real exam. So you can't bring in a highlighter. You got to use a pencil. Okay. All right. So I am in section 2 about traffic changes, and I'm going to go ahead and get started with the audio. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. All right. We're going to do 11 through 13, and then I'm going to go into the map will be next. But first, you have to do 11 through 13. Please try to remember what I said earlier about first you want to look at the key words that we're looking for. I'm looking for changes needed, right? Changes needed. Why? Why changes needed? Okay, why are changes needed for the traffic? That's the language that's going to point me to the answer choice. Residents complained about, right? That's what I'm looking for, right? Survey is easy to remember. According to the speaker, one problem with new regulations or one problem with regulations, that's what I'm listening for, okay? So it's very, very important. See, what makes the difference between section 2 and 3? In section 2, you're only might have 3 multiple choice questions. When you get to section 3, you might have 6 or 7 multiple choice questions, like just like this, but it will be 6 or 7 questions. Okay, it'll be 6 or 7 questions. And so again, we got to be able to. First step is, some people say, should I be looking at what's in the answer choices also? First step is get through 11, 12, and 13 and pull out what's the keyword language listed for the answer. Then if you still have time, go back to number 11 and start looking at some of the keywords there. But remember, the correct answer is going to use synonym language. Okay? Right? We're in sections 2, 3, and 4. The correct answer choice will use synonym language. Okay, I'm going to play it. Let's go ahead and get started.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
All right, excuse me.
To section 2.
All right, here it comes now.
Section 2. You will hear the chairman of the Highways Committee of Granford speaking to members of the public about proposed changes to traffic and parking in the area. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 13. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 13.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Phil Sutton, and I'm chairman of the Highways Committee. We've called this meeting to inform members of the public about the new regulations for traffic and parking we're proposing for Granford. I'll start by summarising these changes before we open the meeting to questions. So, why do we need to make these changes to traffic systems in Granford? Well, we're very aware that traffic is becoming an increasing problem. It's been especially noticeable with the increase in heavy traffic while they've been building the new hospital. But it's the overall rise in the volume of traffic of all kinds that's concerning us. To date, there's not been any increase in traffic accidents, but that's not something we want to see happen, obviously. We recently carried out a survey of local residents, and their responses were interesting. People were very concerned about the lack of visibility on some roads due to cars parked along the sides of the roads. We'd expected complaints about the congestion near the school when parents are dropping off their children or picking them up. But this wasn't top of the list, and nor were noise and fumes from trucks and lorries, though they were mentioned by some people. We think these new traffic regulations would make a lot of difference, but we still have a long way to go. We've managed to keep our proposals within budget, just so they can be covered by the council. But of course, it's no good introducing new regulations if we don't have a way of making sure that everyone obeys them. And that's an area we're still working on with the help of representatives from the police force.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions.
Okay. All right. So, what is the answer for number 11? Please type 11 and A or B or C. Somebody said A. What did the person say? The person, why do we, right? That's what he said. Why do we, but a lot of times answers follow the word but. Okay. But its overall rise is concerning us. Its overall rise is concerning us, right? He didn't say, but its overall rise is concerning us. All right. That's synonym language here. Right now, some people chose A, and they chose A because they heard the word traffic and they heard the word accident. But a lot of people would pick A because they heard the word accidents. All right. But its overall rise is concerning us. Okay. That means that our correct answer that we should have chosen is B. Right. B is our correct answer choice. Choice B. All right. Number 12. Excuse me. Number 12. Right. I remember listening for it says people due to lack of visibility due to cars parked. Right now, they're getting it wrong. Right? They said directly the word parents. But was there any synonym language for the word dangerous? Or anything related to the word dangerous? Oh, noise pollution. There was none. No noise. They didn't even say the pollution. There was no noise problem. But what a lot of you guys are doing is you hear the word truck or you hear the word lorry or you hear the word parent and you're picking visibility. Due to. Everybody. Okay. All right, it's okay. Somebody next door is, I don't know what they're doing to their house, but they're hammering or something. Okay. Number 13. What did you guys get for number 13? Does anybody have 13? 13. All right. 13 was no good if no way to make them. I'm paraphrasing. They said there's no good, there's no way to make people follow them. No good if it's no good if no way to make them obey. Okay, what was the problem with the new regulations? The problem is there's no good way if there's no way to make them obey it. So correct answer is B. All right, so to back up, C was the correct answer here, and B was the correct answer here. All right, so everybody, we're going to have a 5-minute pause, and then I'll be right back. Okay, 5 minutes. Pause. Okay, everybody, excuse me. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go to the next part of this question, which is a map. Okay, and here is the map that we're looking at. There's a lot of, I don't know if I can get it all on there. But to look at where everything is on the map, right? So here's a bank, there's a library, there's the chemist, there's a supermarket, there's another supermarket, there's a school, and then also my roads. There's High Street, there's School Road, there's Station Road, right? So I'm looking for what everything is. Now, also what I'm looking at are there any specific vocabulary words? Are there any specific vocabulary words that I need to put in my mind? Oh, somebody's really banging on that trying to fix somebody's roof. Okay. Are there any vocabulary words I need to put in my mind that are going to be helpful? So where you see H and where you see G, does anybody know what that part is called? Where H is and where you have G. Does anybody know what you call that part of the road in English? Anybody know? Well, yeah, it's a winding road, yes. But what do you call that specific part where you see H and that specific part where you see G? Because if you know that vocabulary word, then you'll be able to know what they're talking about when you're listening. It's called a bend. Right? That's what it's called. It's called a bend in the road. It's called a bend in the road. Okay? It's not called a turning. So everybody, this is why vocabulary is so important. A lot of people say, well, I can't do well in the exam. Well, you have to have the vocabulary. Otherwise, if during a map, you're saying things and you don't know what those things mean in English, you're not going to recognize or you're going to get lost on the map. That's why you have to know across from, short road, closed road. Right? That's why you have to know all of that stuff. Okay? Sometimes people just keep taking tests and they're not improving because they're not working on improving their skills. And that's what you have to be able to do. All right, so remember, it's going to go in order. They're going to talk about the new traffic light first. Then they're going to talk about the pedestrian crossing, then parking allowed, then new no parking signs, and so forth and so on. So it's going to go in order. All right, so let's remember that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play the audio now. And hopefully the people next door won't keep fixing their roof while the audio's playing, but we'll have to see. Okay, all right, here we go. Afterwards, I'll go ahead and walk you through it.
14 to 20.
Right, so when they're giving you this time, this is when you would be doing what I just did. Marking what everything is, where everything is, and what are some of the specific English words I need to make sure I'm familiar with to listen for. Bends and roads, winding roads, short roads, leads off from, across from, next to, junction.
Now listen and answer questions 14 to 20.
Okay, so this slide shows a map of the central area of Cranford with the High Street in the middle and School Road on the right. Now, we already have a set of traffic lights in the High Street at the junction with Station Road, but we're planning to have another set at the other end at the School Road junction to regulate the flow of traffic along the street. We've decided we definitely need a pedestrian crossing. We considered putting this on School Road just outside the school, but in the end we decided that could lead to a lot of traffic congestion. So we decided to locate it on the High Street, crossing the road in front of the supermarket. That's a very busy area, so it should help things there. We're proposing some changes to parking. At present, parking isn't allowed on the High Street outside the library. We're going to change that and allow parking there, but not at the other end of the High Street near School Road. There'll be a new no parking sign on School Road just by the entrance to the school, forbidding parking for 25 metres. This should improve visibility for drivers and pedestrians, especially on the bend just to the north of the school. As far as disabled drivers are concerned, at present, they have parking outside the supermarket, but lorries also use those spaces. So we've got 2 new disabled parking spaces on the side road up towards the bank. It's not ideal, but probably better than the present arrangement. We also plan to widen the pavement on School Road. We think we can manage to get an extra ½ metre on the bend just before you get to the school, on the same side of the road. Finally, we've introduced new restrictions on loading and unloading for the supermarket, so lorries will only be allowed to stop there before 8 a.m. That's the supermarket on School Road. We kept to the existing arrangements with the High Street supermarket. Okay, so that's about it.
All right. People do us. Yeah, I am going to. I'm not going to send it to your email, but I am going to process it and I'm going to upload it into the course. Okay? I am going to process it and upload it into the course. So that's what's going to happen with this video. Okay? I'm answering a question by Mr. Kanani, I think it is. So I'm going to do. Okay? First, I'm going to have to try to process it and try to get that, whoever's banging next door on their roof, get that reduced in the video if I can. Okay. choice number 14. Does anybody have number 14? All right. Number 14 is E. All right. 14 is E. All right. What they said is planning to have. Planning to have is synonym language for what? Planning to have is synonym language for new. Planning to have at the school road junction. Right. They're planning to have at the school road junction. Wang Ying, I'm going to upload it into the course for all 20,000 people. All right. So Wang Ying, everybody's going to get it, man. All right. Everybody's going to get it. I'm going to upload the thing into the course. So just wait a day or so, and I'll have it uploaded in there. Okay. All right. Now let me point out something to you. What they did with number 14 in terms of at Station Road. Right. Now, if they say they already have it at Station Road, that means it's not new. All right. Now, some people try to put A as an answer choice, but they said they already have it at Station Road. So, right. So you have to keep in mind what language means the same as new. All right. Now, number 15, answer, please. Number 15. They say so high street, and they say across the market, right? Across the market. So the answer is D. Now, let me point out to you what they said in terms of trying to trick you. They said we considered, right? That means they were thinking about. We considered in the word but, all right? We considered putting it outside number 16. And with number 16, they're playing. So watch. What they said is this. So watch. What they said is this. At present is not allowed, but we will change and allow it. You see what they did there? They keep playing with the word but over and over and over again, right? So it's all, they're trying to trick you with language and things like that, but I'm pointing it out to you. So, all right, number 17, we got some answers that are all over the place on 17. 17 is G. Just by the entrance to the school. Forbidden parking. Some of you said H, right? Maria, I don't know how you got H, Maria. They said just by the entrance of the school. Where's the entrance to the school? Right? Just by the entrance to the school. When you look at H, there's no entrance to the school. Okay? There's no entrance to the school. Where's the entrance to the school? It's right here. Just by the entrance by the school. All right, number 18. Yeah. It was followed by a so. Up near the bank. Side road up near the bank. Okay. Number 19. 19 is H. Is very good, everybody. Number 19. Now here's where the language is very helpful. Knowing what get, one, have. You know what the word been means? That's very helpful, right? And that's why learning this map vocabulary. Don't keep taking the test over and over and over, different parts and breaking down. That's what you have to do. If you really want to practice the right kind of way, what I'm doing today is what you have to do also for yourself. You have to learn how to study for this exam or learn how to practice for this exam. These are the things that you have to do. Okay. All right. Number 20. Supermarket, because they said supermarket. You have to recognize that. You have to recognize where they're talking about and where they're big difference in what you're doing. All right, big difference in what you're doing. Okay.
So I think this map was pretty easy. For me at least, I got all of the markings correct. So it was not very clustered, and that map was very simple and few markings and everything. So maybe when they speak a lot of things, but visually it was.
Hello and good afternoon, and thank you for joining me for this live listening IELTS class. As I mentioned in the announcement, this live class is only going to cover how to do a multiple choice question. The reason why I have a specific focus on multiple choice question is because I get a lot of students that ask me about doing this particular kind of question. If you were with me last month and you were in the live class, you know that the focus of the live class last month was IELTS listening, but it was focused on course in the live listening class recording section, and you can find it there. So I put the rules for the class in the chat box if you're just joining us. Please make sure you review those rules so you understand how to be a good student in the class. Thank you for joining. Let's go ahead and get started. Right, so as you know, there are 4 basic parts to the listening section. I'm just going over this very, very quickly because, believe it or not, I have a lot of students that are absolutely brand new to doing the IELTS exam. So in the listening, there are 4 parts, and the listening section gets progressively more difficult. What I mean by that is part number 1 is really, really easy. Part number 1 is at the level of a basic English level student. And then part number 2 is probably lower intermediate. Part number 3 is upper intermediate. And part number 4 is advanced level in terms of the listening.
So really on the exam, they progress you through all the levels of English. Part number 1 is a conversation. Part number 2 is a short talk. Part 3 is a conversation, and part 4 is also a short talk, but it's more of an academic kind of lecture. And that's the longest part in terms of the listening section. I did see one question in the class, I think by somebody named Bruce, who raised his hand. Bruce, if you have a question, as it says in the rules, just ask your question in the chat box and make sure your question is related to the classroom topic. However, before you put your question in the chat box, make sure you read the rules, because I may have already answered your question. Okay. Now, some students want to know how to improve their overall English. I get a lot of students that when they start the course, they say, I want to get a score of 7.5, I want to get a score of 8. And if you read the reviews in the course, you'll see that a lot of my students get scores of 7.5, 8, 8.5 all the time. Now, there is a direct correlation between getting a score of 8 or 8.5 or even 9 and your level of English. So it's not enough that you just take this course. You have to always be working on improving your overall English. So in terms of listening, listen to a lot of short lectures, listen to TED Talks, listen to podcasts, listen to English Talk Radio. Just make sure that if you really are serious about preparing for this exam and doing well in the listening section, that you are listening to English. You'll notice that I did not say music. Also, I did not say movies and TV. Yes, those are great, and yes, they are in English. But one of the problems with television or with a movie is that it's audio and it's visual. And very often people get more distracted by the visual thing that's going on than concentrating on the audio. When you listen to a short talk, a short lecture, a podcast, you're only focusing on your listening. You're only focusing on improving your recognition of the language, through a listening medium. So that's what I have to say in terms of improving your overall English. Now, there are different variations of a multiple choice question, and so I'm going to go through those variations very quickly. Of course, you have the standard multiple choice question, a standard question, right? You have the question and you have 3 answer choices. That's a standard multiple choice question. Then you might have a multiple choice question where they ask you to pick from a list. Sometimes it might be pick 2 things from the list, like it says for this question right here. Which 2 groups of people is the display primarily intended for? Sometimes they might ask you to pick 3 from a list, and they might have 5 or 6 choices and ask you to pick 3 from a list. What 3 things did the person say? So that also is a variation or a type of question that you might have to do. Now, you also have the type of multiple choice question where we're coming from the box. And what I mean by that is they give you, like here, they give you 8 answer choices in the box, A through H. And the questions are going to go in order, right? They're going to talk about the eldest child first. And then when they talk about the eldest child, they're going to say something about the eldest child in connection to one of these answer choices. The trick here is that they're not going to say these words exactly. They're going to say a synonym of one of those words. And you have to be able to recognize the paraphrase or recognize the synonym. But this is also another type of multiple choice question. Here's the one in terms of choosing the answers in the box. I want to make a difference between these two. The difference between these two is that with this first one, you can see that the answer choices are all single words. When they have this question in section 3, you see that the answer choices are much longer. So when they're increasing the difficulty from section 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, when they're increasing the difficulty, they are making the answer choices longer, they're making the questions longer, but the strategy doesn't change, the tactic doesn't change. And this is another type of multiple choice question. Here, we have the single categories in the questions: national news, editorial, human interest, arts. And then you have the categories up here, which are full sentences. So this is a variation on the multiple choice question in the box. This is another type of variation, but it's all multiple choice. And all multiple choice questions follow the same strategy or same tactics, which deal with recognizing synonyms and paraphrasing. Right, here it is now, which is the opposite of this one. Now they have the categories in the box, and then they have the full questions in terms of longer phrases here. Right, now sometimes you might have it where it looks like this, where they ask you a question. They're asking you a question, and then you have to hear or listen for which two subjects did they say? Like, which 2 subjects did Martina like best before going to university? You're going to hear, if you were doing this one, you would hear all the subjects, but you have to be able to focus on the keywords like best before going to university. And only 2 of those answer choices that they say is going to be in connection with that keyword language in the question. But when they say that keyword language in the question in the audio, they're going to paraphrase it. Okay. Now, in terms of the multiple choice question, there are really 3 different difficulty levels with the standard question. And so if you see a multiple choice question, a standard multiple choice question in section 1, it'll look like this, where they have one word or 1 or 2 word answer choices. Those are really, really easy, and you want to try to be perfect on those. Then when you move on to section 2, you might get, the question is going to be a little bit longer. Some of the answer choices will be a little bit longer in terms of when it gets to section 2. And then when it gets to section 3, you can see you have much longer questions, you have much longer answer choices. So I point this out to say, some students think that there's a different strategy when it comes to section 3 or a different strategy when it comes to section 4. When you're comparing it to sections 1 and 2, the strategy is not different. The level of vocabulary is increased. The length of the question is increased. The length of the answer choice is increased. That's what they're doing. And the reason why they're doing that is because that's how they make a decision between different levels of English. That's how they make a decision, right? That's how they weed you out. Because a student that's at a basic level of English is going to have a really difficult time with the question like number 21 here. Even a student that's at an intermediate level of English, they may struggle somewhat with this question. And the reason why they struggle is they have difficulty recognizing the keywords in the questions. They have a lot of difficulty being able to choose which of the answer choices is a paraphrase of what they said. And students at lower levels of English are much more likely to pick an answer choice because they heard them say a word. And so this is how they separate you. The purpose of having 4 sections in the listening part is to separate you. Students that are able to do great on section 4 are probably the students that are between a 7.5 and 9. Right? Students that can do okay on section 3, they're probably between a 6 and 7.5. And students that can only do well on sections 1 and 2 are those students that are getting scores of 5.5 and less. So I want you to be clear about how they break down the listening section in terms of English level. And that's why I said in the very beginning, in addition to learning overall English, you have to do that. So, wherever you are, whatever country you're in, if you're in Egypt, stop listening to Arabic. If you're in India, stop listening to Hindi, right? If you're in wherever you're located, if you're in Brazil, stop listening to Portuguese. If you're in Ghana, stop listening to Tweet. If you're in Nigeria, stop listening to Yoruba. All right, Ash K, it is difficult to read multiple choice questions in 1 minute when questions options are too long. Ash K, I am going to talk about this from a strategy standpoint. When they give you, and I'm assuming the only time is 1 minute is really when you're talking about section 4. If it's in section 3, it's actually less than 1 minute in terms of the time they give you to listen to read through the questions for a multiple choice question. But to answer you directly, Ash K, when they give you time to look through the questions, or they give you that 45 seconds in the very beginning to look at questions 21 to 27, you're supposed to use that time to find the keywords in the question, not the answer choices. You're supposed to be finding the keywords in the question. That is the critical information, the critical keywords that you need to find. And 40 to 45 seconds is enough time for you to find the keywords in the question. So why do I say focus on the keywords in the question when you have that time? Because when you hear that language in the audio, right after that is when they say the answer choice. Right after that is when they say the answer choice. And then after you hear the answer choice, you then pick which one of the answer choices is a paraphrase of that. Now, this is the trick when it comes to the listening section. You have to be able to simultaneously listen to the audio and be reading through the answer choices simultaneously, right? The reason why some of you mess up is because you're focused on just listening, right? You're focused on just listening and you're not doing both at the same time. Okay, so there is enough time to do what I suggest that you do. Let's see. Well, Mithra, I did talk about improving your listening skill. I told you in the very beginning, you want to only listen to audio listening. That improves your listening skill. Something else that improves your listening skill is taking the time to read the listening transcripts. Really, sometimes just take the listening transcript, play the audio, and read along with what they're saying in the audio. You want to be really comfortable with how the patterns of the listening work and how they work. And you have to be able to sometimes just look at the transcript of what they say and become more familiar with what works. You improve your vocabulary by studying synonyms lists. That's in section 25 of the course. In rhythm, somebody's named Rhythm. Wow. Okay. In terms of synchronizing your listening and writing answers simultaneously, that's a skill that gets better with practice. There's really no trick to it, but you just have to it gets better with practicing. Sunder, I'm going to answer your question, because some people may not understand it. In terms of the reason why they give you 10 minutes on the paper exam, and only give you 2 minutes on the computer exam, is in terms of listening and transferring answers, is because on the paper exam, people may write their answers down on the test booklet, and then they have to transfer all of their answers to the answer sheet. That's why they're given 10 minutes. On the computer automatically does it for you. So they're only giving you 2 minutes to look through your answers. People doing the paper test have to literally some people transfer all their answers. No, mistakes in part 4 don't weigh more than part number 1. Each question is worth 1 point. Rawa, I answered this already in the beginning. The test gets more progressively difficult. Part 1 is for basic level. Part 4 is for advanced level English. Okay. All right. So somebody's asking about keywords, and I'm talking about that later on. Okay. So everybody, please hold your questions. And I'm going to move on to the next section, because if I don't move on, I'm not going to finish. And I'm telling you want me to finish. So please just hold your question. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about how they create multiple choice questions
and answers, how they actually create multiple choice questions and answers. I want to talk about that a little bit, please. All right, some people are not clear about how they create questions. Questions are created from 1 or 2 sentences in the script. That's where questions are created from 1 or 2 sentences in the script. And so it's a really good idea sometimes to look at the transcript in the back of the book and look at how they form the questions. Look at how they form the questions, because one thing you'll notice is they use 1 or 2 sentences from the audio to form the question, and then directly after that they say the answer choice. And so if you learn and see how questions are created, you'll do much better in terms of being able to listen for the answer. Now, in terms of answers almost always follow the keywords from the questions. So that's why underlining the keywords in the questions is so important. It's so important, because when you underline the keywords from the questions, you're going to be able to listen for those keywords, and then when you hear them, they'll say the answer choice. And so a lot of students are not clear about really how to create questions and answers, and that's really important to understand. So in terms of overall strategy, when it comes to multiple choice questions, it really comes down to synonyms and paraphrasing. It really comes down to synonyms and paraphrasing. And in terms of synonyms and paraphrasing, the better you are at this skill, the better you're going to do on the listening section of the exam. Understanding synonyms and understanding paraphrasing is what the IELTS reading section is all about, and is what the IELTS listening section is all about. You have to be able to understand that for reading and listening, because on fill-the-blank questions for listening, they deal with synonyms. You have to be able to recognize a synonym or paraphrase of the language before or after the blank line. If you do that every single time. For multiple choice questions, you have to be able to find the paraphrasing of what they said in the audio. If you're able to find the paraphrasing of what they said in the audio, then you're going to find the correct answer choice every single time. So what I'm going to go through now is just 2 different types of practice that you can do at home to be able to get better at recognizing synonyms and paraphrasing. And this practice that we're going to go through, the first practice that we're going to go through, it involves listening to an audio in terms of having a list of keywords and questions, and listening for the synonym or the paraphrase of their language. So I'm going to ask everybody right now. I'm going to look and see what questions are in the chat box, but I'm going to ask you right now, please do not ask a question in the chat box while this audio is playing. Do not do that. All right? Because what it does is it makes the screen pop up for some people, and it's a distraction. So please don't do that. I'm going to look at any questions I can answer right now, and after that, for right now, just stop. Okay? I see some people are asking questions because they're late coming to class. The class is recorded. Whoever responded to that, thank you. You don't have permission to record. Gone deep in terms of section 4. In terms of, does every question have equal weight? Yes, it does have equal weight. Yes, on the computer-based test, you can highlight. If there are some videos on YouTube from the British Council that show you how to highlight. If you have trouble finding them, ask me in the Udemy course, and I will show you the videos that show you how to highlight on the computer-based test. Yeah, I know in terms of the rules, normally I would have done that beforehand, but I just thought about doing it 30 minutes ago. That's why I just put it like that, okay? All right, so one more time before we get started, I'm going to reiterate about the rules. Just, go through just a couple of rules. Don't ask questions when the audio is playing. Most of your questions about recording and will it be recording is in the rules, so just pay attention to that. Go up to the beginning of the chat box and read the rules. Next time, I will give the rules in advance. Okay. Oh yeah, I want to go over this also. In terms of how they create paraphrasing for multiple choice questions, they use synonyms and they use, of course, paraphrasing to do it. Sometimes they'll change the word form to create paraphrasing, and other times they'll change the grammatical structure to create paraphrasing. What I mean by grammatical structure is very often in the listening section, they'll switch between active and passive voice. And like I said, you'll see the question. When you see the question is one simple sentence, but in the when you hear it in the audio, it'll be 2 sentences, or it'll be formed in a compound sentence. And so to increase the difficulty, they do these 3 different things to create paraphrasing to challenge students in terms of their listening. In terms of tackling and getting better at paraphrasing, it's a good idea to create study synonym tables And I'm going to go over that a little bit later on in terms of creating study synonym tables. But creating synonym tables is a really, really great idea to get better at your paraphrasing. And if you are in the Udemy course and you see lectures 15 to 17, lectures 15 to 17 go over how to create these synonym tables. I mentioned about your overall ability. Studying vocabulary synonym lists also helps in terms of tackling paraphrasing. Using the transcript. A lot of students really just waste the transcript that's in the back of the Cambridge books. If you really pay attention to the transcript, if you do that and read through the transcripts of the audio and look at how they paraphrase answer choices, you're going to get much better at this skill. And then, of course, you want to practice recognizing when paraphrasing is occurring. So coming up really soon, I'm going to talk more about practicing when paraphrasing is occurring. I'm going to go over an exercise about that, and also an exercise about utilizing the transcript to see how paraphrasing is occurring. So first, let's talk about synonym and paraphrasing in terms of creating tables from audio. A really, really good practice to do is, and most of the time this is done after you do a test, And so after you do a practice test in one of the Cambridge books, it's a good idea if you're doing whether it's fill the blank questions or multiple choice questions, to pull out from the questions, to pull out some of the keywords from the questions and create a two-sided table. And you'll put the question keywords on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, you're going to try to write down the paraphrasing or the synonyms that they use for those question keywords. That is a very important skill to work on, because the better you get at listening for the question keywords, the better you get at hearing the synonyms and the paraphrasing for the question keywords, the more you're going to recognize the answer choice. And so in this next exercise, I've already done it, but you'll see on the left-hand side that we have the question keywords right here, 1 through 6. We have the question keywords right here, okay? And it goes in order in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It goes in order. These are the question keywords. Now understand, I'm going to say this twice. In this exercise, we're not listening for the answer choice. If you were doing this on your own, you already would have tried to answer the questions. What you're doing now is you're working on a skills exercise, which involves being able to hear question keywords, right? Being able to hear question keywords. So this is the exercise so you understand. We have number 1, caring, 2, cooperative, 3, outgoing, 4, introverted, 5, selfish, 6, independent. Now I'm going to play the audio, and your job on a piece of paper, if you have paper in front of you, is to write down the synonym or paraphrase of the word caring that you heard. Write down the synonym or paraphrase of the word cooperative, and write down all these synonyms and paraphrasing. So I'll give you 30 seconds to write these words down on a piece of paper, and you can create a two-sided table. So I'll give you 30 seconds to do that, and then I'm going to play the audio. I will remind you to please don't ask a question right now. Okay, don't ask any questions right now in the chat box, please. All right, I'll give you 30 seconds to write these words down, and then you're going to listen to see if you can pick out the paraphrasing or synonyms that they said. Okay, so remember, it goes in order. You're first going to hear the synonym for caring. When you hear the synonym, write it down. Then you're going to hear next in the audio a synonym that means the same as cooperative. So I'm going to play the audio now, and you're going to write down that synonym, those synonyms, or write down that paraphrasing. Here we go.
Part 3. You will hear 2 psychology students discussing the effects of the order in which the children in a family are born. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Ed, how are you getting on with the reading for our presentation next week?
Well, okay, Ruth, but there's so much of it.
I know. I hadn't realised birth order was such a popular area of research.
But the stuff on birth order and personality is mostly unreliable. From what I've been reading, a lot of the claims about how your position in the family determines certain personality traits are just stereotypes, with no robust evidence to support them.
Okay, but that's an interesting point. We could start by outlining what previous research has shown. There are studies going back over 100 years.
Yeah, so we could just run through some of the typical traits. Like the consensus seems to be that oldest children are generally less well-adjusted because they never get over the arrival of a younger sibling.
Right, but on a positive note, some studies claim that they were thought to be good at nurturing. Certainly in the past, when people had large families, they would have been expected to look after the younger ones.
There isn't such a clear picture for middle children, but one trait that a lot of the studies mention is that they are easier to get on with than older or younger siblings.
Generally eager to please and helpful, although that's certainly not accurate as far as my family goes. My middle brother was a nightmare, always causing fights and envious of whatever I had.
As I said, none of this seems to relate to my own experience. I'm the youngest in my family, and I don't recognize myself in any of the studies I've read about. I'm supposed to have been a sociable and confident child who made friends easily, but I was actually terribly shy.
Really? That's funny. There have been hundreds of studies on twins, but mostly about nurture versus nature.
There was one on personality which said that a twin is likely to be quite shy in social situations because they always have their twin around to depend on for support.
My cousins were like that when they were small. They were only interested in each other and found it hard to engage with other kids. They're fine now, though.
Only children have had a really bad press. A lot of studies have branded them as loners who think the world revolves around them because they've never had to fight for their parents' attention.
That does seem a bit harsh. One category I hadn't considered before was children with much older siblings. A couple of studies mentioned that these children grow up more quickly and are expected to do basic things for themselves, like getting dressed.
I can see how that might be true, although
Okay, so the synonyms that you should have found were when they said good at nurturing, that's the synonym for caring. Easier to get on with than older students, that's the synonym for older siblings. That's the synonym for cooperative. Sociable, confident, friends easily, that's the synonym for outgoing. Shy, social, hard, engaged, others, that's the synonym for introverted. World revolved around them, that's a synonym or paraphrasing of selfish. Do basic things for themselves, that's the paraphrasing of independent. So this language on the right is the language they said in the audio. So for this question, you had to literally hear this language, good at nurturing, and then be able to recognize that it is a paraphrasing of the word caring. You had to hear this language easier to get on with than the older students and the older siblings and recognize it as a paraphrase of cooperative. So it's a really good exercise to just work on being able to practice listening for synonyms and listening for paraphrasing, because that's what makes the test difficult. That aspect of it, that's what makes it difficult. Someone has a question. How can you write what's there? Okay, so Itendra, in terms of your question, now remember, we're not answering the questions, Itendra. You're practicing is working on recognizing paraphrasing. So for example, in the paraphrasing quizzes that I give in lectures 15 to 17, I tell you, I say it's okay to stop the audio and write down what they said, because you're not answering the questions. You're just working on writing down the paraphrasing. Okay, so you don't have to be writing that fast. It's okay if when you're practicing when you're practicing the skill of paraphrasing, or practicing the skill of recognizing synonyms like we're doing right now, and if you were doing that on your own, it would have been okay for you to stop and then write it down, okay? Now, of course, on the real exam, when you're answering questions, you can't stop it. But we're not working on answering questions right now. We're working on improving a skill that you need to answer questions, okay? That's what we're working on right now, everybody. Please understand that. We're working on a skill that you need to get better at so that you can be able to recognize answer choices more. In terms of, can you use helpful as cooperative? Yeah, Mohammed, if you had written down the word helpful, that is something that's similar to the word cooperative, and the word helpful would have led you to the word cooperative when you were looking for a synonym. Shijang, in terms of it taking time, keep in mind, this is just working on improving a skill. Doing well on the exam is about skills, right? For reading, it's about scanning skill. It's about recognizing paraphrasing skill. For listening, it's about being able to recognize synonyms and paraphrasing skill. It's about being able to read and listen simultaneously, skill. So it's a skills test. That's what it is. It's a skills test. And once you understand the skills they're testing for, then you know what skills you need to get better at doing to do better on the overall test.
A lot of people don't know what are the skills they're testing you on. If you don't know the skills they're testing you on, how are you going to get better? How are you going to be able to work on the skills that you need? I mean, I've heard of people just taking the test 6 or 7 times. That means your skills are not getting better. Okay, just doing the same thing over and over again is not going to help you. Shijan, I don't know what you're talking about. Shijan, this is not something you do on the test. All right, give me one moment so I can explain this to Shijan. You're not doing this skills improve your ability to recognize paraphrasing and synonyms. This is something you do in your practice, okay? In your practice. I'm trying to help you get better at your skill. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do it one more time. Okay, I'm going to do it one more time again. Skills practice, everybody. We're not answering questions. It's a skills practice. All right, so please, from this point forward, do not ask a question, okay? Don't ask any questions. I'm about to play the audio. All right. So these are keywords you're going to hear. I mean, these are keywords that you need to find or listen for the paraphrasing of. Residence, local area, potential new students, primarily intended for. His novels are well known now. He used his publications to draw attention to social problems. Now, I know that you may not be able to write down everything they're saying. Just write down some of the paraphrase or write down some of the synonym, okay? But the first paraphrasing you're listening for is residence, local area. The next paraphrasing you're listening for is potential new students. After that, you're listening for the paraphrasing of primarily intended for. Okay? We're not answering questions. This is not something that you do during the exam. This is a skills exercise that you work on in your preparation for the exam. Okay? Because I want you to get better at this skill so that you can get better on the overall test. Okay. So I'm going to play the audio now, and please hold your questions.
Part 3. You will hear 2 students of English called Kathy and Graham planning a display on 19th century British life and literature for a university event. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 24.
Okay, Graham, so let's check we both know what we're supposed to be doing.
Okay.
So, for the university's open day, we have to plan a display on British life and literature in the mid-19th century.
That's right. But we'll have some people to help us find the materials and set it up, remember? For the moment, we just need to plan it.
Good. So, have you gathered who's expected to come and see the display? Is it for the people studying English or students from other departments? I'm not clear about it.
Nor me. That was how it used to be, but it didn't attract many people, so this year it's going to be part of an open day to raise the university's profile. It'll be publicised in the city to encourage people to come and find out something of what goes on here. And it's included in the information that's sent to people who are considering applying to study here next year.
Presumably, some current students and lecturers will come?
I would imagine so. But we've been told to concentrate on the other categories of people.
Right. We don't have to cover the whole range of 19th century literature, do we?
No, it's entirely up to us. I suggest just using Charles Dickens.
That's a good idea. Most people have heard of him and have probably read some of his novels or seen films based on them. So that's a good lead-in to life in his time.
Exactly. And his novels show the awful conditions that most people had to live in, don't they? He wanted to shock people into doing something about it.
Did he do any campaigning other than writing?
Yes, he campaigned for education and other social reforms and gave talks. But I'm inclined to ignore that and focus on the novels.
Yes, I agree.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion...
Okay, so now I'm going to show you the paraphrasing or synonym language. So as you can see here, the reason why I say this is something you do after you have done a test, after you've done a practice test, because number one is one of the correct answers. Number 2 is one of the correct answers. Number 4 is one of the correct answers. Number 5 is one of the correct answers. Number 3 is just some paraphrasing I wanted you to see if you can hear. But these are the correct answer choices, 1, 2, 4, and 5. So what you're doing now is, in terms of getting better at the skill of paraphrasing, is, you're now going, and actually, so these aren't even question keywords. These are actually answer choices. I should have this as answer choices, not question keywords. When I say question keywords, I was including all of that. And I should have just said question answer keywords. But anyway, you're listening for that language, right? So in terms of, let me move this over. In terms of residence local area, they said publicize in the city to encourage people to come, right? That would have told you to pick this as the answer choice. People considering to apply next year, when you heard that language, right? That's why I tell you it's about hearing the synonym, hearing the language, and then potential new students concentrate on, that's the synonym for primarily intended for, and I think this might be out of order, number 3, but primarily intended for and concentrate on. His novels are well known now. Most have heard of him. He uses publications to draw attention to social problems, show awful conditions lived in, and shock people. So again, this particular exercise is what you do after you do a practice test. This is how you get better at your paraphrasing. This is how you get better at that skill. And this is something that you can do on your own. If you're really serious about trying to get better at the listening section and getting better at your accuracy of answering questions in section 3 and section 4, this is the skill you work on, okay? Now, another thing to do in terms of getting better at your paraphrasing and getting better at the synonyms is to work on using the transcript. In the back of the Cambridge book, you have the transcript of all of the audio. A lot of students waste this tool. This is a fantastic tool to get better at improving your score. So here, what we're doing here, and you want to create a 2-sided table. And on one side, you have question answer keywords. That's what I should have wrote on the other screen, question answer keywords. You have question answer keywords on the left side. You have audio, because we're looking at the transcript now. We're looking at the transcript. And so you would look at the question, identify the keywords in the question, and then go ahead and look at the transcript and try to find the synonyms or the paraphrasing of those question answer keywords they have in the transcript. Again, this is another way where you get your brain and get your mind used to recognizing paraphrasing and synonyms. So if you want to do this exercise with me, on a piece of paper, you put, you're going to put down question answer keywords on the left side, and you're going to put the synonyms or paraphrasing that you see in the transcript. So for example, in question 11, I know one of the keywords is originally, right? I know one of the keywords for question 11 is originally. So on the left side of your paper, you will write the word originally. And then look in the transcript. Look in the transcript. And question number 11 starts right here where you see the underlined words. That's where question 11 starts from. Okay, and what you're looking at here is the transcript from the back of the book. Question 11 starts right here. Question 12 starts over here. Question 13 down here, right? But find the original, or find the paraphrase or synonym of the word originally. Okay, so look at each question, identify keywords, and then look in the transcript and see if you can find synonyms of those keywords or find paraphrasing of those keywords. All right, so just take a couple of minutes and see if you can do that. I have a question really quickly. I'll answer the question. Yeah, Nichelle, don't write any, and that's one of the rules I said in the very beginning. Do not write any answers in the chat box. Okay, because what you did right there is you ruined everybody else's opportunity to do it on their own, right? If you write answers in the chat box, you mess up the opportunity of other people. So please don't do that. All right, so take a couple of minutes and see if you can see how much paraphrasing you can find, okay? You're looking at the questions, and even sometimes you might be looking at the answer choices. And what you're looking for from the questions and the answer choices is you're looking over here and trying to find as much synonym language, as much paraphrasing language as you can, because this is what it's all about. right? You should be able to find language related to mainly used, right? Language related to begin, right? You should be able to find that kind of language or paraphrasing of so just look and try to find as much paraphrasing and synonyms as you can. Take 30 more seconds, and then I'm going to show you some of the paraphrasing and synonyms that I found. Okay. So, for example, originally established, origin of the park, belonging to, started in, local community, people living nearby, lead a campaign, organize petitions and demonstrations, mainly used, most of the park is dug up for, growing, planted with, got going, began. Again, what I was doing, just to explain the exercise to you, everybody, what I was doing was trying to see how much from the questions and some of the answer choices, how much of the paraphrasing or synonyms that I can find. Again, I'm trying to help you with getting better at this skill. Okay, getting better at this skill. Somebody has a question. Let's see. No, somebody doesn't have a question. Okay, all right. So again, those are two skills you can work on your own to get better at paraphrasing and better at synonyms. Let's go ahead and move on. Quickly, I'm going to go through this part in terms of some common problems and difficulties when it comes to multiple choice question strategy. Right. Of course, simultaneous reading and listening. In terms of simultaneous reading and listening, this is a big issue for a lot of students because when the audio is playing, you have to be looking through the answer choices. You have to be listening to the answer choices. One activity that indirectly, again, I said the word indirectly. One activity that can help you with simultaneous listening and doing something else at the same time is actually taking notes from an audio. When you practice taking notes, it forces you to listen and do something else at the same time. Right now, of course, on the Ielts listening exam, you're listening and reading through answer choices. But the point I'm making is being able to improve the skill of listening and doing something else at the same time. Another problem that students have or difficulties, they hear the same words. They're testing their ability to recognize synonyms and paraphrasing. One reason why so many students get answers wrong is because they pick answer choices because they heard that word. They said, oh yeah, I see the word. I heard them say this word in choice A, and so I'm going to pick that as an answer choice. In terms of that you can't keep up with the audio or they're speaking too fast, this goes to improving your overall listening ability. And I talked earlier in the class about how to improve your overall ability. Managing distractors is a big difficulty for some students in terms of managing distractors. These are words that are designed to trick you into selecting the wrong answer choices. Sometimes they use contractions, such as but, however. Like, for example, you might hear a student say something and somebody else will say but. And what that means is that the previous thing they said was wrong. But students are not able to really manage distractors very well. Exact language is a distraction. Self-correction is a distraction.
So you have to get much better at managing distractions. Xizhang, send me a message in the course and I will explain to you how to be able to. You're not taking notes. You don't take notes on the computer test. Okay? You don't take any notes. Yes, the Cambridge books are as close as you're going to get to the difficulty level of the real exam. All right, so those are some difficulties. Some other difficulties, some students choose the first answer they heard. Most of the time, the first thing you heard them say is the wrong answer. They do that because they know a lot of students, especially students that don't have a high level of English, they often will just pick the first thing they heard, especially when they use an exact word. In terms of no time to read, I explained and talked about this earlier. When they give you time to look through the questions before they start the audio, your job is not to look at the questions and the answer choices. Your job with that limited time is to identify the keywords in the questions. Keywords in questions are content words. Content words, not functional words, not grammatical words. Keywords in questions are content words. Content words are nouns, verbs, adverbs. Those are content words. You have to also make sure that I talked about this already, not listening for exact words, you're listening for paraphrasing and synonyms. Again, if you can't comprehend what they're saying, that relates to English level, everybody. Other problems, long questions, long answer choices. I've mentioned this already. You have to get better at simultaneous reading through and listening at the same time. Very often, all the answer choices are stated. This is a difficulty for some students because they'll hear information from all the answer choices. And you have to remember you're listening for which answer choice is connected to the keywords in the question. Question keywords versus what you hear in the audio. We went over this already in the previous exercises, and I showed you how they're using paraphrasing. I showed you how they're using synonyms, and you have to get better at doing that. Also, some people struggle with that the choices are given in a different order. So, for example, in the question you have A, B, C, but in the audio, they may say information related to B first, and then say information related to C, and then information related to A. So these are all challenges and difficulties that happen during the IELTS listening, and you have to get better at managing these problems and better at managing these difficulties. All right, Gail, I'm not doing fill the blank questions right now, my friend. This is only multiple choice. Which I suggest for listening to follow the tape script or not. No. I mean, yeah, if you're not answering questions and you're just trying to learn, how listening is structured, how the conversations are structured, and you're trying to learn how the short talks or short lectures are structured, then it's perfectly fine sometimes to have the transcript in front of you and play the audio and read along with what you're hearing and discover how conversations are structured and discover how short talks or short lectures are structured. That's fine. And Ashkay, I don't understand your question. Eliminating the wrong one will help to trace the right one. Yeah, I mean, that could help. That could help in terms of process of elimination. We call that POE. But that's something much more that you do on the TOEFL IBT than you do on the IELTS. But process of elimination does work. But that's much more. That's something that you really do on the TOEFL IBT because you're able to listen first and take notes and then answer the questions. And then POE or process of elimination works much better. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. Please hold your questions. All right. So coming up next, which is what some of you may have been waiting on, is I'm going to go through some practices on these first two practices. I'm going to more hold your hand and walk you through it in terms of I'm going to explain to you the keywords that I would underline as in the questions and really break down each individual answer choice. And I'm going to walk you through it step by step. And then after that, it'll be just more of true practice where I'm not holding your hand and walking you through it. So practice number one, this will be a step-by-step walkthrough. We're going to work on applying the strategies and tactics in a live practice. This is a live practice. The answers and the explanations for the answers will be given. Let me say again, do not write answers in the chat box. Please respect the process of everybody else. Don't write answers in the chat box, okay? I'm going to give the correct answer choices. I'm going to explain them, and I'm going to answer any questions about them. All right, so first we're going to work on highlighting the question keywords. So it's actually, I'm going to tell you, this is actually from book number 6 and test number 2. In the course, in the actual course, I only use books 7 through 15. Sometimes in a live class, I'll use some of the other books if the material is still relevant to the test. But this one is actually from book number 6. What I want you to do is not take 30 seconds. I'm going to give you 45 seconds actually, not 30 seconds, 45 seconds. And all I want you to do is, and you can do this mentally, okay, right now, you can do this mentally right now, is I want you to go through each question, not the answer choices. Go through each question and identify what would be the keywords in each question. Again, not the answer choices. Go through 31 through 37, and I want you to identify the keywords.
All right, so some of the key words that you should have recognized, like for 31, photograph, horse showed, Scotsman employed, major problem, first system, rival system, appear, after, 1895, famous new system. Like I said, right now, for what we're doing right now, you could have just done this mentally, okay? Longer films, problems involving, invention relied on. Those are the key words that I identify from the questions. I've shown you in the previous exercises why identifying question keywords is so important, because when you hear question keywords in the audio, right after that, they say the answer choice. All right, so now we're going to listen and answer the questions. All right, listen and answer the questions. You can write your answers on paper if you want to. Please don't put your answers in the chat box. All right, so we're answering questions 31 through 37.
Section 4. You will hear part of a lecture about the history of moving pictures. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
I believe that the story first began in America in 1877, when two friends were arguing over whether a horse ever had all 4 feet, or hooves, off the ground when it galloped. To settle the bet, a photographer was asked to photograph a horse galloping, and the bet was settled because you could see that all the hooves were off the ground in some of the photos. What was even more interesting was that if the photos were shown in quick succession, the horse looked like it was running. In other words, moving pictures. The person who became interested in taking the moving pictures to its next step was the famous American inventor Thomas Edison. Actually, he didn't do the work himself, but rather asked a young Scotsman in his employ to design a system, which he did. Now, this young fellow was clever, because the first thing he did was study other systems, primitive as they were, of moving pictures, and then put all the existing technologies together to make the first entire motion picture system. He designed a camera, a projection device, and the film. The system was first shown in New York in 1894 and was really very popular. Apparently, people lined up around the block to see the wonderful new invention. There were, however, a couple of problems with the system. The camera weighed over 200 kilograms, and only one person at a time could see the film. Well now, news of the new system in America traveled fast. A number of rival European systems started to appear once people had heard about it. The single problem with all the systems was they couldn't really project the film onto a screen, so more than one person could see it. Then in 1895, 3 systems were all developed, more or less at the same time and independently of each other. I guess the most famous of these was by the Lumiere brothers from France, and they called their system the cinematograph, which of course is where the word cinema comes from. There were also 2 brothers in Germany who developed a successful system, and they called it a bioscope. Well, now once the problem of projection had been solved, the next challenge for the inventors was to make the films longer and more interesting. A continuing problem at the time was that the films had a tendency to break when they were being played, a problem which was caused by the tension between the 2 wheels, or reels as they are called, which hold the film. Now, this problem was solved by 2 American brothers. They developed the Lantham loop, which was the simple addition of a 3rd reel between the 2 main reels. And this took all the tension away, with the result that the film stopped snapping.
Okay, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and go through the answer choices now. Let me give you some advice in terms of when you're taking an online class, in terms of especially when you're working on listening, something online and listening, wear a headset, put things in your ears, or put headset on. That's the only way you're going to hear very well. Right now, I have the sound up as loud as it can go, and I'm pumping it directly through the Zoom system or the Zoom option of pumping in the sound, right? I'm pumping in the sound. If you don't hear something, it's because you don't have something configured right on your end, okay? You have something, but the sound is there and the audio is there. All right, so first, before I go over the answer choices, I'm going to go over the question keyword audio match, right? So for number 31, you should have heard them say photograph, horse galloping, and you could see. Because right after they said this language, they said the answer choice. For number 32, they said ask the Scotsman and his employee. So when you heard that language, you should be getting your ear ready to hear the answer choice. Now this fellow Scotsman, first he did, right? So they're giving information about the Scotsman. For number 33, when you heard there were a couple of problems with the system, when you heard that language, that's the language that was connected with the question. And right after that, they said the answer choice. Rival European system started to appear. That was the keyword language that matched the question. Right after that, they said the answer. If you didn't recognize that, you didn't hear the answer choice. 1885, that's the paraphrase language from the question. Challenge to make the film longer. Continuing problem. All right, so all of this, what I'm showing you here, everybody, is I'm showing you the question keyword and the audio paraphrasing that was done. Because every single time after they said this paraphrase language, they said the answer choice. And so that's why your first job is to hear that language. So here are the answer choices. Number 31 was really easy. It's A. They literally said all hooves off the ground. All right, then number 31 was a gimme. It was for somebody at a basic level of English. Number 32, the answer is B. Right, they said put all existing technology together to make the first system. Put all existing technology together is paraphrasing of using all available technology. First system is paraphrasing of new system. Some students would get tricked by A because they heard the words design a system. Again, don't be basic. Don't be the kind of person that hears them say design a system and then get excited and pick it because you heard them say design a system. He did not say that he said he studied other systems, but nothing about that it had to deal with Edison. Again, hearing the word Edison is an exact language trap. Hearing the exact words design a system is an exact language trap. None of this language was stated. So 32, the correct answer choice was B. 33, the correct answer choice was A. Again, answers connect to paraphrasing. The camera weighed over 200 kilograms. That's a paraphrasing of it was very heavy. Okay. This was not stated. A person can only be filmed. They didn't say that. Again, exact language trap because they said the word film. People can only see. Again, they said the word see. So we're dealing with another exact language word trap. So again, don't be basic. Stop picking answers because you just hear a word. As you notice, choice C is correct because choice C was paraphrased. 34. Correct answer is A. Been told. So 34 was really just a verb test. Been told is the same as heard about it. Rival European systems began to appear once people had heard about it. Heard about it. Been told. Paraphrasing. Seen, right? Seen is not the same as heard. Used is not the same as heard. So you can't pick B. You can't pick C. 35. Correct answer is A. A French team, brothers, working alone, independently. Right? So after they said that, after they mentioned the keyword question language of famous, they talked about the French brothers. B is not correct because they said that they were working independently. The French and Germans did not work together. Choice C cannot be correct because they said the French brothers invented the word synonym. Again, B and C, they're playing on you. I heard the word synonym. I see the word synonym in choice C. I'm going to pick that as an answer choice. Stop doing that. You have to pick out synonyms. 36. 36 was difficult, mainly because you had to be able to recognize, and they talked about a problem that was caused by the tension between the two wheels, that they're talking about a film projector. All right, they're testing your English in terms of recognizing that language refers to a film projector. But, to be honest with you, choice C is also what the whole listening was about. It was about moving pictures and films. So choice C is also congruent with the entire overall main idea. And 37, they said this. So sometimes I hope you also recognize that sometimes in listening, they connect correct answer choices with your ability to recognize reference pronouns. So for example, when they use the reference pronoun this, they were talking about the Latham loop. This took all the tension away. That's a match for choice A. Choice B was not stated, right? Choice C was not stated. All right, and then here are all the correct answer choices all together. 31 is A, 32 is B, 33 is C, 34 is A, 35 is A, 36 is C, 37 is A. All right. To the second practice. Again, with this second practice, I'm going through this one step by step in terms of a step-by-step walkthrough. And then after practice number 2, practice number 3, I'm not going to hold your hand and walk you through it.
So thanks for joining guys today, and that's it for today. tomorrow we will wrap up the listening part and do a couple of complete exams or something like that, and finish off here and see like where we stand from out of 40, how much we can score based out of whatever we have learned till now. And yeah, thank you everyone.